Today is November 19, 2019. The Lawrence Board of Zoning Appeals is called to order at this time. I need a motion and a second for the approval of the minutes from October 15, 2019.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Minutes stand as written. If you've not done so, please sign in at the back of the room. And anyone wishing to speak tonight, please stand and raise your right hand. Do you swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? Answer with I do.
I do.
Thank you. Do we have any special requests tonight, continuance, withdrawals, or waivers? As the secretary mentioned earlier, the petitioner will get 10 minutes, remonstrator will get 10 minutes, and then we'll hear from DMD, the City of Lawrence, and then the petitioner will get a 5-minute rebuttal, and remonstrators will get a 5-minute rebuttal. Okay? There's no old business. For new business, 19 LSV-13 11934 East 79th Street. Variance of use and development standard of Chapter 743, Article 3, Section 6.EE to permit the creation of an auxiliary structure of 792 square feet to be used as a second dwelling and a 30 by 41 foot pole barn to store lawn equipment. Yes, sir. State your name for the record.
Good evening. Joseph Lisi. I am an architect with Progress Studio. Address is 5915 North College Avenue, Suite 213 in Indianapolis. I am here on behalf of John and Kathy Lamont, the owners of 11934 East 79th Street, and we are requesting a variance of use to allow for the second dwelling and in turn a variance of development standards for exceeding the second dwelling square footage of 720 square feet that's required for 792 square feet. We received the staff report yesterday and had read through it, and there are some comments that I'd like to make in response to that, and then I can turn it over back to you. So we did receive the staff report that it was recommending that the petition be denied, and I wanted to comment a little bit further with respect to some of the sections of the comprehensive plan that were cited. I specifically want to point out that where we are citing this is just north to an existing detached garage structure. And we have been careful to size it in such a way that it would pretty much be screened from 79th Street in totality. It's really not visible from the west. There's a pretty dense tree line, and the north property line is pretty far to the north. I believe it is over 500 feet from this proposed structure to the north. So from a screening standpoint, we've been careful on placement. The second thing I'd like to point out is that in the staff report, it describes as the typology of the DA ordinance having a dwelling unit of approximately a density of 1 dwelling unit per acre. And in this instance, if the petition were to be approved, we would be around the 2 acres per dwelling unit mark. So from a density standpoint, we're not making things too dense. The other item is that it mentions housing clustered against existing buildings or buildings in general to preserve the open space. And by placing it next to the existing garage, we feel that we are accommodating that by clustering the buildings. And so we're not creating a situation where we have buildings sprinkled around. We are disruptive to the site as a whole. The use of this is going to be for aging parents for the owners. And the hardship here by denial of this would be that they would have to find additional housing for aging parents. So that is the primary reason for building this proposed structure. I'm not sure that I have any other questions or comments at this time. I can turn that back over to you, and then I can listen to other additional comments.
Does the board have any questions at this time?
So the building that they're proposing, they want to build, will be for their parents?
Correct.
Now, perhaps I'm mistaken, but wasn't the original addition also for an in-law unit, or tell me about that? What was that for?
The parcel to the east, that was subdivided for that purpose, and that was back in 2017 in a previous submittal. And in a similar situation where rather than requesting the second dwelling unit, it was decided that subdividing the parcel was going to be the path that they were going to take at that point. And so currently, that residence is on the market. And so providing a different solution for their parents.
So are we
Well,
talking about one set of parents here?
Yes.
Okay, so they built the house that is on sale now for them. Is that correct?
I believe that's correct. That's correct.
Okay. And then they're going to build a second house for them, but sell the first one? Am I just getting this totally wrong?
I can't answer to the reasoning for that, other than that is, black and white what would happen.
Thank you.
So why is it necessary to sell that? Why can't their parents live in what we zoned 2 years ago?
I'd have to have the homeowner speak to that. It could be purely a financial decision on their part. That's not really any of my business personally, but I would be happy to have them come up and
Well,
speak.
that's what they come to us 2 years ago. I know I was on the board at that time. I think most of us were. And that's how they sold it to us, that they wanted it for their parents. And now they're coming to us saying, no, we're going to sell this and we want to build something else back here. I guess I'm really confused.
I would say that the prior approval is its own entity. Each request is its own animal, whether it's approved or not.
I understand that. That is correct. When they come to us in the very beginning that this was being built for their parents, and now they're selling that and building something else, I don't understand. I'm confused. I don't know if anybody else.
I'm still confused.
Can you want to address that? Are you the home? Yeah.
You need to come up.
You need to come up and,
Your name and your address for the record, please.
John Lamont, 11934 East 79th Street. And the reason why we're doing this is because when we built the original structure on the property, my mother-in-law, my aunt that's living in there, were working. Since that time, they cannot work, so they have trouble affording the place. Our solution to it was to sell that and then build a smaller structure on the property so that they would have a place they could live without having a mortgage.
shouldn't, I guess
We can no longer afford to help them and supplement their income to be able to afford that house. Originally, the solution was that we would build that house for them to live in, everything would be fine, they'd be happy. But as it turned out, they cannot work now. They have illnesses, and they can't do it. So this is our solution to be able to help them have a place where they can live and not have a mortgage and be able to survive off of their Social Security.
Does the board have any questions?
Not yet.
Thank you.
Okay, okay. Now, the second structure, now this will be, Renee, let me see if I understand. Is this going to be a two-vote type thing, one for the structure and one for the pole barn?
Mary, do they need a variance for the pole barn? Okay, so no, it's just the additional house.
Okay, okay. So that pole barn is not our concern at this
Right,
time,
just the additional house.
just the additional house. Okay.
Thank you.
Anything else to add?
The only other comment I would add is that historically, both in my experience with the IHPC, the BZA for Indianapolis, and here, that any petition that might be granted does not necessarily set a precedent for any future petitions. So I would like to just point out that this is specific and unique for this particular parcel and the need. So I'll have to say it. Thank you.
Okay. Any other questions? Okay. Now we'll hear from the remonstrators. Or anyone for or against the petition may step forward.
Madam President, we
Yes.
have a letter that I'd like to read into the minutes that was presented to the board earlier this week.
Okay.
I'm just going to read it real quick. You do all have it in your packet. Dear Secretary, to the Lawrence Board of Zoning Appeals, I'm writing to respectfully request that the Lawrence Board of Zoning Appeals deny docket number 19 LSV 13, requesting construction of a second dwelling unit that exceeds the allowable footprint of 720 square feet, 792 square feet proposed at 11934 East 79th Street. It has been said those who did not know history are destined to repeat it. I'd like to share some recent history with respect to the property at 11934 East 79th Street. On June 20th, 2017, the board heard from petitioner Representative Joseph Lisi and continued docket number 17 LUSV 10 for 11934 East 79th Street that requested one, variance of use, request to allow second dwelling outside compact context area, 734, Article 3, Section 6, EE Number 3 and 2, variance of development standards, request to allow accessory structure larger than 720 square feet. See enclosure number 1. On July 18, 2017, the board heard from petitioner Representative Joseph Lacey and continued docket number 17, LUSV 010 for 11934 East 79th Street that requested proposal to split the parcel into two even lots to allow for a single-family residence to be constructed on newly created lot. Variance of development standards needed, Table 744-2011. Minimum lot area of 3 acres, 2.5 proposed. Minimum lot width of 250 feet, 130 feet proposed. Minimum side yard setback of 30 feet, 20 feet to allow for existing structure to be compliant. New structure will be compliant with all setbacks. See enclosure 2. On August 15, 2017, the board approved 17 LUSV 10 with no commitments with a 4-0 vote. Enclosure 3. While neither I nor the neighbors I spoke to were personally in favor of this variance being granted, no one opposed the variance request because we were informed the homeowner was building the second family residence for the homeowner's parents, which we were sympathetic to the point we were willing to look past the diminished aesthetics that the additional house would cause the property and the neighborhood, not the least of which is 2 houses sharing a single driveway. Then in August of 2019, the homeowner placed the newly established home at 11946 East 79th Street, built per zoning approval granted via docket 17 LUSV 10, up for sale. Square footage is listed at 1,387 square feet, almost double the 720 square foot structure allowed without a zoning variance. Sale is now pending. See enclosure 4. Homeowner, again through Representative Josie Lisi, is now seeking the board's approval for zoning variance to build yet another residence on property at 11934 East 79th Street. This property is in an area of sparsely populated properties with acreage. Zoning rules were created intentionally by Lawrence leaders and officials to preserve the integrity of the neighborhood and the community, and I appreciate the board's work to enforce them. Approving this additional variance request will result in the property having a village or compounded look as you and feel as you will now have 3 houses, perhaps with unrelated owners, all sharing one common driveway, which changes the entire character of this property and does not fit in with the neighborhood. Additionally, while I have no doubt easements can and have been, will be documented legally, actual adherence could present an issue into the future indefinitely. Should this occur, police could unnecessarily be called by any of the 3 homeowners to help facilitate shared usage and maintenance, understanding, and compliance whenever homeowners feel the need. Clearly, our police officers have better things to do with their valuable time. I was not at any of the public hearings, so I do not know what the homeowners' representatives stated the purpose or purposes of the variance request was or were, since homeowner did not address the board. But if you were advised the same purpose as neighbors were, you were misled just as we were. If that was the case, I would hope the board would not want to feel taken advantage of again, as I and other neighbors feel. I respectfully request you deny this variance request to preserve the integrity of this property and the neighborhood in accordance with the intentionally established zoning rules. Sincerely, Sean McCracken. Thank you.
Okay. We will hear now for or against the petition, please.
A little nervous.
Okay.
Name is Volley Zidonis, 12,010 East 79th Street. So we live east of the property of John. So 2 years ago, John had told me that they were going to build a house out back for the in-laws. I didn't have a problem with it. He told me that for all along, and we've been living there for 36 years, my wife and I. We built our own house, 2,700 square feet plus. We love it out there. This past weekend was the first weekend she told me she might want to move, which, that's pretty sad. That we spent all this time and liked our neighbors, liked everybody around us. So I always seen the public notice up there. I never came to any of the hearings. I never questioned John. John always told me we're going to build a house out back. And one day a foundation comes in up front with 2 halves of a trailer. I have pictures of it if you want to see. Or if anybody's driven by that area, you can see there's a mobile home, double wide, came in 2 pieces that doesn't belong in the neighborhood. So, all along I was told that it was going to be out back, which I didn't have a problem. So now, every morning when we get up, my wife and I look at the back of the trailer house. Now, they're wanting to put another house back next to the garage, next to the garage, which we look out our side window, we'll directly see that house. Then he's wanting to pull a pole barn out back, which is fine, but from what I see, he's going to put it on the east side of the property, which is right next to our property. So now we're looking at a double wide, we're looking at a in-laws home, we're looking at a big garage. At least with the garage, you can put it on the west side, because it is just a bunch of trees and you can't see anything. So I talked with Larry Calloway, principal planner with the city county building, and when I talked to him, he said that the original plans got denied, and so he went ahead and he looked at the house that they were going to build, and it was done by Mitch Design out of Carmel. So it looked like a regular stick frame house built by a place in Carmel. Instead, you get 2 halves of a house delivered. Can I show you pictures?
Oh, I think we've got the same.
Yeah, we've got the same
Okay, so
pictures.
you got 2 halves of a house delivered, and that's not a stick house. That's what was delivered. That's what we look every day when we drive at our driveway. That's what we look at. So,
That's what's out there now? I mean,
yeah.
in addition to the other
Well,
one?
this is the one that they set the separate lot to build on for the mother-in-laws.
Okay.
Okay. But so when we pull out of a driveway, that's what we see. So, we were lied to once, and I never came in here, and I wish I would have, just to see what was going on. But I always thought a good neighbor, we're building it out back, it's not going to be a problem, and I didn't think it was going to be an issue. But now it is. It just doesn't fit, what they built. They said it was going to be for the in-laws. Now they're saying hardship. I believe the in-laws were already retired when they moved from somewhere close to Louisville to here. That was the plan. And I believe they're already retired. So apparently, I don't know what the issue is about them now being retired. So Larry did say that when he represented this house to him with a architect out of Carmel, this is not the same house that got built. So, and he said he was there the other day and drove by there, and he could not believe what they did, put that there. When he himself okayed it, he said, because he thought it was going to be comparable to the neighborhood, and that's the big thing, comparable to the neighborhood. And like I say, if anybody's driven by there, you know, that's what I live with every day. So pretty much what I'm telling everybody, if I would have had a chance 2 years ago to be here and see what was presented, I totally would have been against it. And I just can't believe that what they said they were going to do, they did something different and to the board, you know, what they told you guys, just from what I can see, just being here tonight. I'm good.
Got it. Watching.
Okay.
Sean McCracken, 11906 East 79th
Thank
Street.
you for listening.
Petitioner's representative led off tonight advising the board that the new house that's being proposed is not visible to the west of the property because of the tree line. I would argue the tree line is not a permanent structure, and either of the homeowners that share that tree line can decide to cut the tree line and the bushes down. He also addressed the fact that the houses being in the back of the property aren't going to be observable from the people who drive down 79th Street. The people here requesting your denial of this are not people that drive by the street every day, board. We live there every day. We see the house every day. We look out our windows and we see the property. So I'm asking you to take our viewpoint, our neighborhood into consideration, and please deny this request. Thank you.
Thank you. How much time to do that?
Started at 17, it's 22. They still have 5 minutes.
Okay, you still have 5 minutes. I see we have the Honorable President of the Board, Ms. Chevis. Do you care to speak tonight, or? Her time does not count against any of your times.
I do need to be sworn in, no.
Okay. Do you swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you.
Okay, so I live in District 6, and I do represent the city, and I'm very familiar with the property as it's very close to my neighborhood, and I do travel down 79th Street daily. I wasn't part of the initial hearing, so I can't, attest to what was said or what wasn't said, but I will tell you that I was surprised when I saw the structure coming up as to how it got approved, because I've never seen anything like that in an existing, older neighborhood. So I would just say that if you were a part of that initial hearing, to carefully consider what you've being told today versus what you were told in 2017 in rendering your decision. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else care to speak, demonstrators, for or against the petition? Okay. We will now hear from DMD. Larry?
Thank you. Staff is recommending denial of this request. In 2017, we were proposing to recommend denial of the initial request, which would have provided for 2 dwellings on 1 lot. In that case, we suggested that because of the size of the lot, that it potentially could be split into 2, and that you then have a single-family dwelling on each of those lots. Now, splitting them in 2 made them somewhat substandard to the DA district, but not inconsistent with the size of the lots that were in that area on 79th Street. And so, so we indicated we would be willing to support that, and so they amended the request to put the second dwelling on an individual lot and amend the variance request and then file a subdivision plat, which all was done and was approved. As part of their, initial request, they submitted just to discuss the issues of the house that's on the second lot. Presently, they submitted elevations that indicated, a house that was being designed by a firm, and when I visited the site and saw what to me looked like a manufactured home, I was out, but when I looked at the permit for it, it said it was a modular home. Now, in the ordinance and per state and federal laws, there are differences between a modular home and a manufactured home. A modular home is constructed in a manner that it meets the same single-family and two-family code as a stick-built home, whereas a manufactured home only meets the federal HUD standards, and those standards are different. And so a manufactured home is not permitted without a special exception or some type of approval, except in certain circumstances. And a modular home, but a modular home could be permitted. I have no way of knowing whether that is really a modular home in some way, but it looks like a typical manufactured home. So you would have to question the petitioner's representative to determine if they have any knowledge of and the way that you distinguish between the two in terms of in the real world is that there'll be a certified sticker indicating that it meets the state code. There'll be a certificate on there versus the manufactured home will indicate, it'll have a sticker on it that says it, or not necessarily a sticker, but an emblem that indicates that it meets the federal standards. Anyway, so getting back to this request, again, to us, this is the same request that we were not in support of in 2017, asking for a second dwelling unit on a lot. And in this case, the lot now is smaller because it's been subdivided to provide for that other dwelling. Prior to 2017, the ordinance was amended to provide for secondary dwellings in certain parts of the city, but that's in the compact area of the city, which are the more dense areas of the city, to allow for more density and housing options, also because of trying to allow for more use of transit and things like that in those areas. Certain parts of Lawrence are considered compact because they were developed in that manner, like Oak Landon, just more smaller lots, more walkable, those kind of things. But this is not that. 79th Street is not what you would consider a walkable, more compact urban area. So the ordinance doesn't allow those in those areas, and that was a specific request by the City County Council when passing the ordinance. That portion of the ordinance that did allow it in those areas was taken out because they felt it was not appropriate. And so for that reason, as for several others, we feel that this request is not appropriate. We don't feel there's any specific hardship, as that was alleviated with the request from last year to allow for the smaller lots to have the second dwelling. And so now you're basically saying a third dwelling on that property from what was initially requested. And so for those reasons, we recommend denial of this request. And I'd be happy to answer any questions you might have. One thing I would note that there was an indication by the petitioner that putting the dwelling sort of behind the garage, and hiding it made it more appropriate. We would argue that that's not the case in the ordinance where secondary dwellings are permitted in the compact area. We actually want the building to be visible for emergency purposes, not just the building, but the entrance to the building, so it's clear where emergency personnel need to go to enter the dwelling and to provide services. And so actually hiding it is not what you actually want to do for those reasons. But anyway.
Does the board have any questions at this time?
So are you saying, Larry, that even if we approve this, that house doesn't meet permitting standards because it's not stick-built?
No, that was the first.
I was talking about the previous one.
Oh, okay.
It wasn't clear. It looks like a manufactured home.
Okay.
And if it really is a manufactured home, it may not
Well, here's
may
my
not be
question.
permitted.
Right, here's my question.
But it was indicated that it was a modular home on the permit. So that's just a question that's in my mind. I don't have any proof one way or the other.
My question is, it said a module home. And if this is a manufactured home, then that is not permitted there. Is that what I'm hearing? And that they
No.
could be asked to remove it?
Yeah. Well, yeah, that's a whole.
Okay, I just want to make sure I'm understanding what,
Yeah, if that existing home was a manufactured home and not a modular, there's a possibility that it may not have been permitted on that site, but that was never reviewed. So, yeah. Anyway.
So is it a modular or a manufactured home, the current one?
we don't know.
We don't know.
We don't know. I'll look into that.
Any other questions for Larry? Okay, thank you, Larry. We'll hear from the City of Lawrence. Renee?
The City of Lawrence has reviewed the petition as well as the accompanying staff report for this case as provided by the Department of Metropolitan Development. After careful consideration of the petition and the accompanying documents, as well as the DMD staff report, the city adopts the staff recommendation contained within the staff report and the accompanying rationale contained therein. Importantly, the city has received notice of remonstrance for this case. Notices of support have not been received with respect to the petition. In short, the city recommends this board adopt the staff recommendation contained within the DMD staff report for the reasons stated therein. While the above is only a recommendation, the city will defer to the sound judgment of the Lawrence Board of Zoning Appeals in carrying out and abiding by its statutory duties as provided for by law.
Thank you. We'll hear back from the petitioner.
Thank you. First, I want to point out that I was the original petitioner. I, at that point in time, worked for Mitch Design. I no longer work for Mitch Design. I own my own firm now, so I do not have access to the plans that were submitted for the other house, but I do remember the elevations match what is constructed today on a permanent foundation, and that's really all I can speak to as far as that goes. If the city needs to pursue things after the fact, that would be, separate with the homeowners. I do want to also point out that I think everyone's commentary and opinions and facts as well. I do want to just say that the owners would not mislead anybody. What was the circumstance in 2017 was appropriate at that time. Circumstances have changed, and this is the purpose of the request for today. So just want to point that out, that there was no misleading of anything. So that's about all I have to say. I don't know if the owners want to say anything before turning things back over to the board. Thank you.
Okay. Any questions for the petitioner? Thank you. Remonstrators? I know there's a gentleman who wants to really come up.
If I could I show you all the pictures?
Sure.
Take them, and I'll show you exactly what. So that's what was submitted originally.
We have all that in our file.
That does look like a comparable house. Our house is right here. The new plans, that's not the same house that is shown on that
Right.
plan. Totally different.
Okay.
That's what was delivered in half and half, another half, front half for sale. Thank you.
So this
You sworn in
This is
earlier?
their house. This is what was originally proposed.
Do you swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, thank you.
My name is Scott Bucklew. I live I live next to both of these other parties at 118522 East 79th Street. We all have acreage out there. And I wasn't part of the original hearing based on the facts that I've heard. And I wasn't planning to speak this evening, but after what I'm hearing and learning, I want to say to the board that you're setting precedents here tonight. And if you allow this party to build another dwelling on their home based on some story, then I will be obliged to want to submit my own request to subdivide my lot and put modular homes and the same type of structures on my lot for financial gain as well. That's all I have to say.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anybody else? Does the board have any questions for anyone? Are those different than what's in our packet? Okay. Yeah.
Can I keep these for my file, sir?
I got copies, yes.
Otherwise, I was going to run the copies.
Yeah, I brought copies.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Okay. The board will be voting on 19 LSV 13-11934 East 79th Street, a variance of use and development standard of Chapter 743, Article 3, Section 6 EE, to permit the creation of an existing structure of 792 square feet to be used as a second dwelling in a 30 by 41.
We're not doing the pole barn.
Not doing the pole barn? Okay.
Unanimous.
The board has unanimously denied the request. The board will hear the next order of business is 19 LSV 14-10825, Sedgrass
Sedgrass.
Drive, variance of development standard of Chapter 731-208, Paragraph 3B, to encroach on the drainage utility and setback easement by approximately 7 feet.
My name is Walter Harris, 10825 Sedgegrass. I'm here to get a variance on my deck.
Go ahead, sir.
I just want to get a variance on my deck because it encroaches on the utility easement approximately 7 feet into the easement.
Okay. So let's see. You don't have, it's not on there yet, right?
No, it is.
Huh?
It is.
It is? Now, you know that if the utility people need to get in there,
Yes, ma'am.
I'll have to take it, because mine's built on an easement too, so I just, I know if they come, my whole deck's gone.
Yes, I understand that.
Okay.
I take it you built it and didn't know you were doing that in the utility easement?
That's it.
How did did our utility department come by and say, oh, by the way, you've built this in the easement, or how'd you find out?
Well, actually, I had a friend of mine to tell me was telling me about it, so I didn't even know what the easement, what it was. So when he told me about it, then I started investigating it, and I found out that I was building the deck in the easement. And so I started investigating further, and I wound up here.
When did you build, when was
We
the
hear
deck,
that a lot, so
when was the deck built?
Approximately about, what's this, November? It was built in
July?
July, I believe it was.
Yeah, I think it was July that we
Yeah, July.
started.
Is this, is it built above ground where it comes out over the easement? So,
Yes,
I mean, they could get to it, I imagine, so,
yes.
okay.
It is elevated a little.
Yeah.
It is elevated
Yeah, it's
a little.
if you look on here, you can see it's on, right there.
Yeah.
Okay. Board, have any questions for the petitioner?
No, the drawings are
Thank you.
very clear.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Is there anybody here for, against? Okay, we'll
The
hear.
room's empty.
Yep. We'll hear from Larry.
In considering this request, we did consider the fact that in 2016, a variance was approved for a deck that was constructed without permits in the easement, which encroached much more than this one did. While this one sort of encroaches through the corner of the deck, that one fully had probably 2/3 of the deck within the easement. And the board granted that, and we did support that as well, subject to the condition or the commitment in the staff report that the City of Lawrence or any utilities would not be held liable for any damage, and that they're subject to removing that if work needs to be done. Now, that other variance, at least when I looked at it from a distance, one of the issues was that there were some lower level wood panels on it that were supposed to be removed. It wasn't clear that they were all removed from that. So I don't know if they're out of compliance with the variance or not, but it appeared that they might be. But it was approved subject to those two items.
I have a lot of emails.
And so considering that this one was a lesser encroachment and basically right next door to the previous request, we felt it was reasonable to support it. Of course, that's subject to them actually getting an encroachment license from the City of Lawrence as well.
So is a permit required for a deck?
Pardon me?
Is a permit required for deck construction?
Yes. Uh-huh.
Did he get a permit?
Not yet, because he needs a variance.
But if a person applied for a permit, they'd find out then there was an easement, correct?
Correct.
So was it built by him himself or by somebody else?
I'm not clear on that.
Oh, fine.
Did you build it yourself or someone else? Okay. Any questions for Larry?
I was just going to say, as I remember the last one that we granted the variance for, they were supposed to take off the wood around the side so water could flow through.
I've got an email to myself to check on that tomorrow.
Yeah. And
not
this
been done.
doesn't have that wood.
No.
Right. So we wouldn't want you to slat it in or obstruct drainage in any way, so no lattice or any kind of
Should we
wood
put that
along
in the
bottom.
commitments?
Yes, please,
Okay.
if you don't mind. And also the statement about if the city or any utility needs to go in.
No problem.
Would be the city's request if you guys chose to approve that.
Okay. Any questions for Larry? City of Lawrence?
The city of Lawrence would be okay with approval on this with those commitments, that there not be any slats or lattice or anything along the bottom of it at ground level that would prevent drainage. And also that if any utility or the city of Lawrence needed to do any work in that easement, they would be responsible for removing the deck. You have something to say? You can come up. Come on up.
Yep. Do you, I'm getting good at this. Do you swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes, I do.
Okay.
Okay. My name is Henry Reed, and I'm an associate of Mr. Harris. I live at 4318 Trailgate Drive, Indianapolis, Indiana, 46268. And as an associate of his, kind of helping him through the process. In the interim, we have received a citation from the city regarding the deck, and we just wanted to know if we could have that waived as a result of us.
Board doesn't have the authority to do that.
Okay, so we'll call Steve, the city inspector, and just talk to him.
Yeah.
Okay.
Or you can call and talk to me tomorrow about it,
Great, thank
depending
you.
on what happens.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. We'll hear from the city of Lawrence. Are we ready?
Yeah. It's been a
We're
long
out we're out okay. So now the board's ready to vote on 19 LSV 14, 10825 Sedgress Drive, variance of development standard of Chapter 733, 208, paragraph 3B to encroach on the drainage utility and setback easement by approximately 7 feet with the following commitments. The City of Lawrence Utilities, and any other utility or agent thereof shall not be held liable for any damage to the property, costs associated with removing structure, or costs associated with restoring the property, including but not limited to any structural elements of the deck, whether inside or outside the easement, if and when there is a need to perform work within the platted drainage and utility easement, and no lattice or anything that would obstruct for the drainage. The board has unanimously granted your petition. Thank you. This time, the Lawrence Board of Zoning Appeal is adjourned.